Hello, happy 1st of December to absolutely everyone here. As today we've got two things to talk about. First thing is obviously transfer news, because today was a very significant day when it comes to transfer news, and that Karsdorp position, that Karsdorp substitution today was a very significant day because there have been a lot of positive talks when it comes to ODRIOZOLA signing for Roma, so we'll definitely talk about that. And then another thing which I do want to talk about is how Roma basically found an agreement for an Adidas takeover when it comes to sponsors and stuff, which will boost the economic side of the club a lot. So we'll touch on that as well. But obviously, you know the role. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's get started. I mean, first thing which I'll say is that, as I just said, today has been a very significant day. Because I think after ODRIOZOLA, which got officialized last week, today has definitely been the most significant day after that ODRIOZOLA signing when it comes about speaking the January transfer window. Because today, ODRIOZOLA's agent was actually in Roma, in Trigoria today, speaking with Thiago Pinto, and apparently, as confirmed by Niccolò Schira, which is a very famous transfer market Italian journalist, and I'll read his tweet in a couple of minutes for you, has said that there have been a lot of positive talks. Now, it's the first step, and the first step could be said that has been accomplished, because there have been a lot of confirmations saying that Thiago Pinto and ODRIOZOLA's agent have had, several positive talks about a potential move to Roma, which could happen in January. Now, ODRIOZOLA is a player who right now is a Real Madrid player. He's that classic Real Madrid player, which is a Real Madrid player, however, never plays for Real Madrid and always gets loaned out. He got loaned out to Bayern Munich, he got loaned out to Fiorentina in the league. So obviously, by having played in big clubs like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and just in general being around players which have got a lot of experience, I think puts him in a position that I actually think he could be the starting player when it comes to that. And obviously when it comes to Europe experience, because I mean, if people forgot, we're still in a valid Europa League position. We will need a lot of rotations, but when it comes to Europa League games, we will need players which can handle Europa League pressure, European tournament pressure, and obviously, if you show me all the names that have been presented when it comes to actually speaking about Karsdorp substitution, then definitely by far ODRIOZOLA is the one who's got more European experience, and it's definitely the one which at the very start I would have pointed my eyes on. And yeah, I mean, I'll show you this tweet, because again, Niccolò Schira is a journalist which is an expert in the Serie A. He's a transfer market Serie A expert. He actually collabs with Fabrizio Romano several times. We'll see Fabrizio Romano mentioning him in some of his Instagram stories, and this is what Niccolò Schira says today. So let me read this out loud. AS Roma are interested in Alvaro ODRIOZOLA, who could leave Real Madrid in January. Positive first talks with the intermediary of the deal in the last hours. #transfers. So again, confirmed by a transfer market expert. The fact that his agent was in Rome today, and the fact that there have been positive talks, means that in the background of everything, and we know this is kind of how the Fredkins work, they've shown us this so many times, they just love working behind the scenes, and in almost every single player they buy, you never really read rumors about. Yes, there were rumors about ODRIOZOLA joining Roma a couple of weeks ago, but at the end of the day, they were never concrete rumors. You always have an ownership under the name of Thiago Pinto as well, who works behind the scenes, who works behind everything. And then when something is concrete, journalists talk about things. And again, I think, these past couple of days, we definitely had Thiago Pinto having contact with his agents, actually inviting ODRIOZOLA's agents to Trigoria, as they were in Rome today. and just speak about a potential contract. Now, another thing which this means is, in my opinion, is that I think this is putting Korsdorp in a more farewell position, because if there would be chances of potentially reintegrating Korsdorp in the team, then I definitely wouldn't think and wouldn't really want to see Roma prioritize this position as a first signing. I mean, second signing, because we saw Bakken as a second signing in the January window. So I think this is another clear message which suggests to us that there are no real big updates when it comes to the Korsdorp situation. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that Korsdorp is completely cut out of the team, because as I said in the last Korsdorp live stream, you know, Korsdorp, with this piece of paper saying that he has a condition, a psychological condition, I do think this piece of paper has kind of reopened some gaps when it comes to potentially reintegrating Korsdorp in the team. And I think Jose knows this really well. So as much as we were speaking about Korsdorp being completely cut out of the team before this psychological thing which he's mentioned, I now see the team trying to reintegrate him. Now, I definitely think that even if Korsdorp will be reintegrated in the team, I don't think he will be a starting player. I just can't see Jose blaming him, you know, just putting all the crap on him, and then after a couple of months actually relying on him and having him as a starting player. So I definitely think that even in a hypothetical situation where we could potentially reintegrate Korsdorp in the team, I wouldn't be surprised if Thiago Pinto still works on trying to sign a right back, because I don't think Mourinho in the second half of the season will fully depend on Cilic, who, you know, did get quite a few injuries over the first half of the season. I know, and he's definitely better than Korsdorp. I'm not trying to hide that, but he is a liability sometimes. So I don't think Mourinho will take responsibilities to restart in January with these two players. So that puts to mind that I wouldn't be surprised, even if Korsdorp was to hypothetically get reintegrated in the team, if Thiago Pinto buys another right back. I would not be surprised at all. And in fact, this links to what we were saying before. Squad depth, rotations. If we restart in January in a position where we could have 3 right backs to choose from, and buying a new right back means loaning him out to Real Madrid, therefore not spending too much money on a position which I don't think will be massively looked upon to, then I think that's definitely something good. When it comes to ODRIOZOLA potentially signing for Roma, I do think it's a very similar situation to Oliveira signing for Roma last season. January, loan, and coming from another European club. I think it's a very similar situation. And I think if we were to loan ODRIOZOLA in, I think even if he performs really, really well, I think it's one of those signings which at the end of the season you just don't buy. It's one of those temporary emergency signings which you need, but at the end of the season you look back at the players you have and he's the one which you don't really need. If you kind of understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like Oliveira. Oliveira came last season, I think gave a positive impact. And at the end of the day, we could have signed him on a permanent deal from Porto, and then we just didn't do anything. So I think this is a very similar situation. And I'd be surprised if I'm wrong when it comes to this. I think it's that classic emergency kind of signing which we need, but at the same time, in a long term, if you look at the long term, I don't think we really, really need him. But this doesn't mean that, in fact, I mean, saying what I was saying at the start, out of all the names which I've read as potential Korsdorp substitutions, ODRIOZOLA is by far the best one. There were still rumors saying Berezinski. I don't think we need someone like Berezinski. I would rather, if it means buying someone like Berezinski, 100%, I would rather just not spend money and just pick from the academy team. And I've read other names which sound really young. Now, okay, it's good to get young players, but I am totally against getting young players in the middle of the season. I am a massive young player guy. But when you buy young players, you buy young players in the summer. You do not buy young, unexperienced player in the winter, because it's gonna take a lot of time for them to get adapted. In January, it's that time of the year where you're playing too many matches, Europa League. Buying exceptionally young players in January, I think, is a mistake. I don't think we need very, very, very young players, and I mean around 19, 20, 21 years old in the January window. I would rather see those type of signings in the summer. So yeah, hi Simon, Ndika update. Again, nothing concrete when it comes to Ndika. Again, this is actually good. Why am I saying this is good? This is good because you look at the pattern of the signing of the Fredkins, and there's a definite pattern when it comes to the way they work. So basically, what happens is you get an initial rumor, and when it comes to ODRIOZOLA, for example, we did have an initial rumor a few weeks ago. When it comes to Ndika, we are having an initial rumor saying that Roma want to sign him. Even last summer, when we were to sign Dybala, there was an initial rumor which no one believed. Then there is no one talking about the fact for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then after these 3 weeks, their progress is being made. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. So the fact that there was a rumor about Ndika means that people are aware that Roma are interested in Ndika. But don't be surprised if for the next couple of weeks leading on to Christmas, no one speaks about Ndika, and then after Christmas, out of nowhere, Ndika's closer to Roma. Because that's kind of the pattern the Fredkins are using. You launch a rumor, no one talks about it, everyone thinks it's done, and then a few weeks later, you have real big updates when it comes to the matter. So I think this is what has happened with ODRIOZOLA. We've had a rumor a few weeks ago, no one spoke about it for the next couple of weeks, and now we have rumors about ODRIOZOLA, and in fact, they're advanced talks, they're positive first talks, they are real updates. I think, and obviously this doesn't mean that any single player that we're linked with and there is a rumor about will end up signing for Roma, but I have no updates on Ndika now, just because looking at the way the Fredkins work, I think they love doing things behind the scenes. So I think if there are new Ndika updates, I'm the first one to update you, but unfortunately we don't. But yeah, I think it's work in progress behind the scenes. Right, definitely good news when it comes to this. Now, the second thing which I want to talk about is this Adidas takeover sponsorship. Now, what does this mean? Roma are currently sponsored by New Balance. A few years ago, they were sponsored by Nike. Now, before we get into this, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to smash that like button. Everyone in the stream, take 2 seconds to smash that like button down below, and you always know that it supports me so much. So please do it if you haven't already. Right now, Roma, or the sponsor of Roma is New Balance. Apparently, there has been an agreement found between Roma and Adidas. And Adidas, starting from 2023, will be Roma's new sponsorship for kits, people are saying. Now, this is really good news because this sponsorship would make Roma the second richest club in Italy after Juventus. Now, don't get me wrong, Inter Milan and AC Milan could still do something to get in a position which is better than us. But as things stand, this Adidas sponsorship takeover would take Roma on a massive economic boost. They would take Roma to one of the first positions when it comes to richest clubs in the league, people are saying. Now, what happens with Adidas sponsorships? I'm reading that Adidas sponsorships are basically divided in elite and premium. So Adidas has some massive sponsorship contracts which are called elite sponsorships, and these involve big clubs. So in this case, Let me get the thing on. I think. Oh, wait, let me get it on. So yeah. So elite. Adidas has elite contracts with clubs like Real Madrid, Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Juventus, and Manchester United. So the big clubs. But Adidas also has premium contracts, and this is where initially Roma would lay in. Now, clubs which are part of the Adidas premium contracts are Ajax, Celtic, River Plate, Flamengo, and all of that. You're probably asking, what happens? What happens? What's the difference? The difference isn't massive. It just means that for the elite, you've got a more rich contract. For the premium, you've got less rich contracts, cheaper contracts. And however, what's the other big difference? The other big difference is that when it comes to the elite clubs, Adidas pays more. And when it comes to the premium sponsorships, Adidas pays less. Now, this is not permanent. And this is where, open your fingers. This is not permanent, meaning that Roma could start as a premium sponsorship and move its way to an elite sponsorship. So basically, the Adidas pyramid, the Adidas hierarchy is not fixed. It could change any time. Now, how does it change? In order for Roma to go from the premium sponsorships contracts to the elite, which is where we want to be, Roma have to basically sell as many Adidas Roma jerseys as possible, kits as possible. Now, what does that mean? We've already seen what the effect is buying someone like Paulo Dybala does. Paulo Dybala was the player who sold the most kits in the first 24 hours after he signed for Roma. This is significant because if the Fredkins know, okay, so hang on a minute. If I sell most kits, does that mean that the chances of me getting into the elite, which is where I want to be, increase? Well, you know what? Let's buy another massive branding player. Let's maximize those kit expenses and let's make our way into the elite sponsorship contracts, which is where we want to be with clubs which I've named before. So this could further push the Fredkins and further kind of make them want to buy that shocker of a player which no one expects signing for Roma. Who will that player be? It's very early to talk about. This agreement has been found apparently, but this agreement will start in 2023. So we've got a lot of time to think about this, but it could definitely help a lot. And we've seen it happen with Dybala. We've seen it happen with Mourinho. Why can't it happen a third time? So that is, I think, massive news when it comes to our sponsorships. Because, again, this is another evidence that we're slowly making our way. Slowly, gradually, very slowly making our way. Trying to financially, branding-wise, marketing-wise, compete with the elite clubs. So yeah, I'll leave you on this note, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, I invite you to smash that subscribe button and smash the like button if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know in the comments your impressions on ODRIOZOLA, because positive talks between the two sides. The two sides could accelerate things, and ODRIOZOLA could become a Roma player in January very, very soon. So let me know your thoughts on this. Zalewski has struggled during the World Cup. Hopefully his confidence won't have been affected, says Big Sir Holy. So yeah, I'll catch you soon. Simon, out.